This is my Labrynth deck profile for August 2025. We're kind of pretty early into the Justice Hunters format, so this isn't like a final list. This is kind of honestly closer to a list pre-Justice Hunters, but wanted to showcase it because this is one of my favorite decks. So we're playing 3 Ariana. This is the Stratos of the deck. When it's normal or special summoned, you can search a Labrynth card, and then as a separate effect, when you activate a normal trap card that makes a monster leave the field, you can draw a card, and then you can either special I believe a fiend from your hand, or set a spell or trap from your hand. Then we have 3 of the stove and 3 of the chandelier. So with these, you send them to the graveyard from your hand or field, and you discard a card, and then you can set a Labrynth trap from your deck. And then if a normal trap card you activated makes a monster leave the field, Stove can special summon itself from the graveyard, and Chandelier can return it to your hand. So you max out on those, and those are quick effects. You can use them on your opponent's turn, so you can kind of play on turn 0 with this deck. I'm not playing the Butler. I don't actually have that card, but if you have it, you kind of have to play it. And so you'll see some of the decisions in the deck building are kind of revolved around not having that. So, and then finally 1 Coup Clock. You can discard it, and you can activate a trap card you set that turn if you control a Labrynth monster. And then basically the second effect, if you use either the Stove or the Chandelier's effect, you can either return this to your hand or special summon it. And so there's combos that you can do with like one of these in this. And in builds where you're not playing Butler, you can probably play more than one of this. And then for the rest of the Labrynth monsters, we're playing 1 Lady and 1 Lovely. The 1-1 ratio is pretty standard, although I will say if you're just getting into the deck, you really want to try to make sure that these don't hit the graveyard, because if they get banished, the game is very, very hard to come back from. So this can summon itself the turn you activate a trap card or a Labrynth monster's effect, and then when you activate a trap card, you can set a trap card with a different name from your deck. And then with Lovely, you can set a normal trap from your graveyard, but you can't activate it unless you control a fiend monster. And then when a normal trap card of yours resolves and it makes a monster leave the field, you can destroy a random card in your opponent's hand or on their field. So this is also kind of cool doing, I guess, like going first or doing turn 0 plays. You can potentially rip a card out of your opponent's hand. And then we're playing 3 Backjack. This is part of the discard fodder for Stove and Chandelier. If it's sent to the graveyard, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck and stack them in any order. And then as a quick effect on your opponent's turn, you can banish it and then excavate the top card. If it's a trap card, you can set it and you can activate it that turn. So it works really well with these. It's also a decent card to make Typhon with, because you can detach this and then return something to your opponent's hand and then banish it and get the top card, as well as any like Link 1 too. And the last of the monsters, we're playing 3 Droll. I think this was a lot better in the previous format, and you can probably cut this and maybe play a different hand trap or just more trap cards. But yeah. For the spells, we're playing 1 copy of the field spell Labrynth. This has a couple of effects. So if you activate a set welcome Labrynth trap, you can add an effect to the end of the trap where you destroy a card on the field, which is really nice. And then the other effect, when you activate a non-Labrynth normal trap, you can special summon a fiend monster from your hand or graveyard. And then Pot of Prosperity, because you don't really care about your extra deck too much in this deck, and obviously you're not going to be OTKing. So you could also play, I guess, like you could maybe play like Called by the Grave, like Talents, but I'm not really playing those cards. So next for the traps, I'm playing 3 Welcome Labrynth. This one summons a Labrynth from deck, and then it locks you into fiends until the end of the next turn. The other welcome is Big Welcome Labrynth. So when you activate it, you summon a Labrynth from your hand, deck, or graveyard, and then you return a monster you control to the hand. So that actually works very nicely with these two. If it's Lady, you can summon Lady, then return Lady to your hand, and then it can special summon itself because you activated a Labrynth card this turn. And then if you summon Lovely and then bounce a different monster to your hand, it'll trigger this effect to pop a card. So, and then it has a graveyard effect where you can target a monster you control and return it to the hand, or if you control a level 8 or higher fiend, you can target an opponent's card instead. And then kind of like the WinCon blowout cards, we're playing 3 Daruma Cannon. It flips everything face down, and then if it's not face down, it gets sent to the graveyard, and it makes your opponent, how do I phrase this? It makes your opponent do the action, so this can bypass, like, say, like Link monsters that are unaffected by cards. And then the other blowout is Dimensional Barrier. You're playing 2 because we are also playing 3 Trap Trick. So you play 2 for the Trap Trick. This card obviously doesn't work against every deck. Some decks really aren't. Some decks maybe will just be playing Links, but I think this is actually pretty decent in this format because, you know, if you're playing Draco Tail, you call Fusion, Yummy you can call Synchro, and Vanquisol Canine you can call Xyz, although I guess it's not perfect. And then we're playing 3 Rollback, more discard fodder for Stove and Chandelier. The field effect doesn't really come up that often. People aren't really playing that many trap cards, but this is kind of nice. You can kind of sometimes copy like Imperm or Impulse or Purge, which is pretty cool. But the graveyard effect is pretty big, especially if you have D-Barrier or Daruma Cannon in your graveyard. It's like 3 additional copies of those cards. And then I kind of wanted to play more hand traps, so played 3 Infinite Impermanence to round off the main deck, which is 40 cards. Moving on to the side deck, we're playing 3 Lancia. Really good against Labrynth, obviously, kind of, not Labrynth, Malice. Probably the only reason that's in here. 3 Super Poly. We don't really care that much about our extra deck, so we can fill those slots with Super Poly targets, and this is pretty good against Draco Tail. And then similar theme, we don't care too much about our extra deck, so we're playing Ultimate Slayer, and you'll see the targets in the side. Then the last spell is Feather Duster. And then for the trap cards, 3 different Dimension Ground. This is kind of like a blowout, kind of like D-Barrier and Daruma Cannon. Really, really powerful. Then we're playing Rivalry of Warlords. It's pretty easy to play under Rivalry in this deck. Basically everything's a fiend. And then Eradicator Epidemic Virus to hit spells and traps. The only thing I'd maybe change this and play Full Force Virus instead, because with this you kind of can only tribute the level 8 Labrynths, which isn't great. For the extra deck, I guess I'll start with the Ultimate Slayer targets. We're playing Garura. Lets you draw if you send it, but this is also a good Super Poly target. We're playing the Tri-Brigade Link 5 for links, and then it can send this, and this can draw. Malong can bounce a card. Aggregator can negate, and then kind of the weird one I chose to play is Omega. It has a graveyard effect where it can like put itself and something else back, which is really, really nice. I find most of the times I end up doing that with Typhon. You can put your Typhon back, and Typhon is kind of interesting in this deck. It has some like small synergies because it's a fiend monster. I mentioned previously that it's not a bad idea to make Typhon using Backjack, because you can detach it to bounce something, and then you can stack your deck after that. And then the other interaction was Not perfect or not ideal, but you can, if you've already used your Typhon's effect and you have a big welcome or a way to access big welcome, you can summon a lab from your deck. So let's say maybe you summon Lovely and then you bounce your Typhon back. That's actually really helpful because you're only playing one, so you can recycle it and use it multiple times. And that's pretty important in a deck like this where you're not really winning the duel quickly or immediately. And for the rest of the extra deck, Muddragon as super poly target, Mysterion the Dragon Crown as a super poly target against Draco Tail is really, really good. I know the new one of this also came out, but I chose not to play that. And we're playing Almirage for your backjack. Also relinquish anima for your backjack if you're going second. SP Little Knight, just crazy card. Nightmare Phoenix, kind of a placeholder. You could really play anything there. And then Dark the Dark Charmer and Access Code Talker. That is the profile. If you enjoyed it, like the video and consider subscribing. Comment what you think about the deck. If you think it's great, if you think it's awful, if you change everything, if you wouldn't play the deck at all, just comment anything you want. But that's it, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.